welcome to another professional prep video. In today's video, we'll be talking about arrays in Java. Now, to give you my definition of an array, it is basically a way you could store your data. A way you can store and organize your data in Java. Alright, so that's basically what an array is. There are many types of arrays in Java, but the two big types of our arrays are static arrays. Make that a comment. Static arrays and dynamic arrays. In this video, we'll be only talking about static arrays, but a video about dynamic arrays will be available in the future. Alright, so now to begin, let me define a static array so that you could tell that it is a static array rather than a dynamic array. Basically, a static array is an array that has a fixed amount of elements when you create the array. Also, you should know that they can't be changed when the program is executed, meaning that they're just fixed when you declare the array and that they cannot be changed later on when you execute the program. One important thing to know about arrays is that an array hosts a bunch of memory locations under a single variable name. Now, to explain this, let's create an array. So this is the basic form of an array, or like how to declare one, is first you have a primitive data type. So let's just do integer since that's one of the most basic data types. Then we have to have the two brackets, right? This means array, so int array, and then we have the name of the array. Since we're talking about static arrays, let's just call our array static array. And then we set that equal to, and then we have the new operator, and then we have the primitive data type that this array will be having. So in our case, it's an integer, and then we have the bracket, and inside this bracket, we have the amount of elements inside the array. So let's just do 5 since it's a simple number. This is what I was talking about when I meant that a static array is a fixed amount of elements, because you can't change this 5 when the program is executed, unlike a dynamic array and other arrays. This is pretty much how you create an array. It goes primitive data type, the bracket, which means array, the name of the array, the new operator, primitive data type, how many elements in the array. Alright, so now that we got that by the way, let's talk about how we can put things inside the array. So to put something inside the array, we have the name of the array, so in our case it's static array. Then we have the index of the array. So you know how there's 5 elements? That we have them organized based off index. Think of it like a table. It goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then there's like a x value, and then there's like a y value. Think of the 0 as the x value, and then what it's equal to, let's set 200. Let that be the y value. That's an easy way to think about it. One thing to know is that the index goes up till the range -1. So you can only do static 0 equals 200. You can do static array 1 equals 300. And then we can keep copying and pasting this 5 times. So right now we already had 2. Alright, so let's change this to 2. Let's change this to 3. Let's change this to 4. And let's change this to 400, 500, 600. Obviously gotta remember my semicolons. And the reason I can't have static array 5 is because this would be an out of bounds exception. Since in this case there's 6 elements and we only made space for 5, this would be the out of bounds exception. Now you might think, why do I have 0 and why don't I just start at 1? Well, basically in Java, that's how indexes work. They start at 0 and go up to the range -1. So if you have static 5, you would get an out of bounds exception. So let me put that as a comment. So when I run this, it will not produce an error. Now let's talk about printing out an element inside the array. So first I'll do a system.out.println statement. And inside the statement, I would have a parenthesis, of course, and a semicolon. Inside the statement, I would have the name of the array, so static array, and then which index you want to print. So example, let's just do 0. Now we run it. As you see, it prints out 200, which is what we wanted to print. Say if you want to print out, no, let's not do another one. Let's just say if you want to print out the first index. See, we'd get 300. So it keeps going like that for the entire index, for all the indexes in the array. So that's how you print it out. Now to show what I meant by what I talked about, the memory address part in the beginning, basically all these elements inside the array refer to this one memory location, which is static array. So all these memory addresses just go under one variable name as static array. And to demonstrate this, let me just print out static array. When I print this out, I'm going to get a really weird number. This right here is a memory address. And basically, all these elements are stored in this memory address. Just make that a comment. So that's pretty much what I meant by when I talked about how all these elements are inside the memory address. And lastly, before I end off this video, I like to talk about one other way we could write a static array. So I'm gonna comment all this out, use a multi-line comment here, and I'm gonna talk about a different way to write a static array. Obviously, you see how when we created this array, there's so many lines, right? What if you have 100 elements inside the array? You can't just be burning 100 lines. First of all, it'll look kind of ugly, and it'll be really, really tough to debug when in the future when you're trying to figure out an error, right? So here's an easier way to create a static array. Basically, you do int array, and then you have the name of the array. That's one word. And then you have the equal sign, and all we do is we just have a curly brace, semicolon, and inside the curly brace we have our elements. So let's just do it: 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. So we know how there's 5 elements in this. It's similar to this, right? It goes element 0, element 1, 2, 3, 4. And that was in index terms I was speaking. So I'm gonna put that as a comment. So it'll be 0, and these are the indexes. So it's gonna be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And printing this out, let me just show you how we build print this out. The exact same as before. So we have a println statement, then you'll have static array, and let's just do 1, right? This should print 300. Yep, and it prints 300. So this is a small tutorial about how to create static arrays. I hope you learned something from this video. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below or send us an email. Our email is linked in the description. Other than that, thank you and have a good day.